Hey Manu, welcome. Just making sure you guys can hear me. Everybody. So I wanted to make sure you guys can hear me okay. If you can put something in the chat. Perfect. Thank you. We have some interesting earnings still this week and ones that I want to recap from last week that are pretty spot on to kind of what I said. Um, and then and then we have some interesting ones that are going to be reporting this week, some that are already reported today. So we'll take a look at those guys. And like as always, I'll try to go as fast as possible because I know it's kind of late for some of you guys. So we'll speed through this. We'll just give it another minute while people come on in. Thank you guys all for coming. And like I said, we'll run through these pretty quickly. Give you guys some time back. Alrighty, guys, I'll get started here. I know it's still a little early for some people. It's a little bit later for others, and we'll get going. But thank you for stopping by. So this can be earnings outlook for February 12th, and I believe it's going to go through the 16th. Just a little bit overall, just recapping trading overall and the outlook of what we expect for the rest of the market. In this week earnings alone, we already had two of them that I'm going to be covering today, which is going to be Monday.com. And I believe there's going to be one more that already reported that I was really interested in. The rest of them, some of them are going to be reporting tomorrow morning. Unfortunately, one of them that I really wanted to trade, which is Datadog, that I personally think is going to blow earnings out the window. But unfortunately, it does report before it opens. But then we still have Airbnb, we have Robinhood, Lyft, and then leading into Wednesday and Thursday, we still have some bigger names as well. Oh, I didn't cover Oxy. Oh my God. Okay, I wish I covered Oxy. We might be able to touch on that slightly. Just overall, the oil market's been a little bit up and down due to the conflict that's going on in Israel. So we'll touch on that maybe a little bit. DraftKings, I'm really excited to touch about, especially with their announcement today. Coinbase, Roku, and then DoorDash are some of the bigger names that we're going to be going through. So overall, I'm super excited. And let's get into it. So Uber, this is one that I think I've been talking about for the past couple, not only months, but I think ever since we started doing the ERs here at OOT. A lot of people didn't understand Uber's model and how companies can um, not make money if you said they're not profitable, but revenue wise, they're still making money. And I think Uber has been that prime example, right? Where Uber was literally reporting losses after losses, but revenue kept increasing. And the thing with Uber and with a lot of these startup companies is that they focus a lot of their money in R&D, research and development. And in this case with Uber, and you're going to see this across a lot of startups, is that it doesn't matter if they're technically not bringing in cash because that's not what the investors really looking for in the long, in the short term. They're looking at this in the long term of things. And Uber being one of the only rideshare companies, and I stated this literally in the last time, Uber is the only, if the only one that is actually profitable when it comes to rideshare companies, right? So overall, the revenue quarter up 15% from last year, and the CEO believes that they're going to continue to have profitable growth for Uber overall, right? So I think Uber is just one of those ones that's going to steadily increase growth over time. And I consistently see this over time. And then you compare them to Lyft, you compare them to these other competitors who are not profitable. Like I said, I believe there's only two rideshare companies that are profitable, and Uber being one of them. So a good one to kind of just have in the long-term portfolio. I think it's just going to be one that just consistently grows over time. And I think it's still undervalued at $69. Disney, one of my favorite ones, one that I unfortunately was not a part of, especially with this big jump that it just had. Disney announced a lot of things, obviously, with its dividend. being one of the prime reasons why it's been pumping. But Disney's been beating the quarterly earning estimates. And then again, I can't talk about this enough. I always mention guidance and guidance. And I think people are starting to find to realize how important guidance is because you can have great numbers but have bad guidance or vice versa. You can have bad numbers but have a great expectations for the rest of the quarter and the rest of the year and the stock can turn around because at the end of the day, a lot of these stocks are not moved by retail traders like ourselves. But a lot of these stocks are moved by big institutional investors who look at these things in long term investments, right? Disney, I think, being one of the best examples. So one of the interesting things that I saw from Disney is that they finally slashed their streaming business losses. A lot of big institutional investors were a little weary of the streaming profitability that Disney was going to be able to produce. They finally are able to achieve profitability. At the same time, they actually lost streamers, which is usually a very negative thing for companies like Disney. But because of the price hikes, they were able to actually outweigh those losses and still have profits overall, right? So they're going to still continue to cut costs. I think Bob Iger is just doing everything he can right now to make Disney as profitable as possible as soon as possible, right? So if they're going to cut out another 7.5 billion by end of fiscal 2024, they had their investments into Epic Games, which that one was really, really interesting to me. I think Epic Games is doing a lot of fantastic things, especially with the gaming models. And I feel like Disney hasn't been able to jump into that sector yet, like that gaming sector. So I'm going to be very curious what they end up doing with that. And they also announced a new sports streaming service aside from ESPN. And there's already rumors of it getting reported about being like 45 to $50. I don't know if that's going to be like the whole package with everything. But a lot of great news for Disney, a lot of positive guidance for Disney. So as long as we're able to maintain, as long as data is not going to be killing us, we can see Disney jump back up into the 115 area, 120 range. Is what I'm looking at for it in the long realm of things. CBS, and this is the one that I felt very strong about. I know Nando actually ended up getting puts that day, but overall the health sector, right, has been kind of pumping up and up. And that's kind of what CVS was relying on overall. They're just banking on the strength in the health services. Unfortunately, and this is exactly what I talked about as well, is that we need to pay it. That's right, Mario. Yeah, I'm usually, it's a 50 fucking 50%, right? I guess if earnings are flat, then I guess you have that like 1%. Um, but overall, we need to be careful of like insurance. A lot of insurance middlemen are interfering in the health sector. There's going to be a lot of costs coming on into the health sector overall. So while the health sector is growing, um, you have to pay attention to that because the profitability, the margins overall start decreasing, right? So just little things that you start pay attention for not only CVS, Walgreens, all these other health companies, right? Snap. This is the one that I was hoping for it to be bullish, but overall, it's just a piece of shit at this point, to be honest. Like this made me laugh. They were like they told investors that the conflict in the Middle East made them struggle with their growth. I'm like, what does the Middle East have to do with your growth? Like, I just thought that was like a really ridiculous. Oh, Nana, you're here. Let me mute you if you want. Where are you? Uh, Give me 1 second, guys. Sorry. There you go. Yeah, I just thought that was ridiculous. They proved right? Well, if you actually look at the revenue, they barely missed by 0.2 billion. So it wasn't a lot. Like they beat EPS wise. I think the company is just falling apart. TikTok has been taking on too much of shares. Obviously, Instagram and all these other social medias are just taking away too many viewers from Snap, and I don't think Snap is going to recover. If anything again, Snap needs to get bought out. I don't know who would buy them out. I don't know if they have any technology that would buy them out. What the interesting part, and I think a lot of you guys can agree this, especially with the age demographic that we have here, Snap was like an innovator for a lot of the things that are coming out now. Like I don't know if you guys remember the Snap glasses. That's what Ray-Ban and Meta are doing now. Obviously, you have the Oculus and you have what Apple's doing. I feel like Snap was on top of that. Snap was doing stories. There was just like a bunch of stuff that Snap was ahead of its time, and they just haven't really done anything revolutionary lately. And I could foresee one of the big guys just buying them out for the talent. But besides that, I don't see Snap going anywhere anytime soon. Can you check Sony really quick? Um, Sony gonna make a car. Norbert, I don't think Sony's gonna make a car with Apple. Sony hates Apple. Apple and Sony have never gotten along. Um, and I don't think a PS6 is enough to move Sony. So those are just my 2 cents off the top. Monday.com. So for a lot of people, especially if you're not in the SaaS world, I worked for a SaaS company, so I'm very familiar with Monday.com. It's a mixture of HR and SaaS as a whole. And this is what I'm pretty intrigued about across the SaaS market. SaaS companies have been reporting very profitable overall, and Monday.com is an example of that. Even if you look at the chart, but they're the whole as a year as a whole they're expecting 9.26 million to 93.2 million, which is an estimate of what the market was expecting them to produce, which is why Monday.com didn't go as high as it probably should have. Oh, this is an accident. Whoops, sorry about that. But this is what was going to lead me into Datadog. Unfortunately, again, Datadog reports tomorrow before market open. So we'll talk about Datadog as well, which is another SaaS company. I really think SaaS in these next couple of quarters, and I want you guys to kind of pay attention to that overall, right? Software as a service is going to continue to explode just because overhead isn't really there. They're not selling you anything physical. It's just software, right? So there's a ton of margin on software. And you're going to continue to see software companies continue to explode, right? So yeah. All right, let's get into the outlook. Hood been making money on BTC. I say Hood does well, VRT blow. I actually talk about Robinhood, and then I do talk about Coinbase as well. So we'll get into this. Airbnb. I'm a little bit indifferent about Airbnb. And the reason is I think as a macroeconomic view of where we are in the economy, I still think we're just not there yet, right? Like we're not where we want to be or where we need to be. Airbnb is expecting 2.13 billion to 2.17 billion, which would mean a growth year over year. And there's been a lot of demand of first-time bookers. And overall, what Airbnb is really banking on is this expansion internationally, especially in the Asia Pacific region. But what I've been seeing a lot, and maybe you guys can chime in as well, is this concept of Airbnb bust, where you're having like this very greedy hosts who are charging you ridiculous fees, and people are starting to go back to hotels. People are preferring to go back to hotels because of how expensive Airbnb has gotten. A lot of investors who bought houses just to use for Airbnb who are not flipping, who are not making enough money are jumping off of Airbnb, right? So obviously you have Vrbo, you have a bunch of other companies that are coming in as competition as well. But then this is like the insane part is just like EPS. They're expecting, um, they're not really expecting that big of a growth. So this decline right here is what kind of scares me overall with Airbnb. And I mean, unless they have something really up their sleeves. I don't see Airbnb maintaining these levels with what it's going to be announcing, right? So, well, that's one to keep a lookout for. All right, Shopify is going to be the next one we're going to be looking at. Shopify, I think, is going to be another one that falls into the sector of the macroeconomic view of things. The reason I say that is because obviously Shopify being e-commerce, people are spending less and less money on things with inflation increasing. You're going to see this negative effect. And I think you're going to see that across the board. Um, NYC is also working on regulations against Airbnb. JW, that's a huge one, right? Like there's a lot of regulations going across when we can go back to Airbnb on that one. There's a lot of regulations, and it's not just New York. I know San Francisco did it. A lot of major cities did it because you have these influxes of Airbnbs, and then the population of housing or the amount of housing that actually exists versus what people actually need. And you're starting to get this displacement of people, right? So it's getting harder and harder to be a host, or at least a profitable host of Airbnb. And I think this is why people are migrating international because you're having one, it's cheaper, right? I'm actually personally looking, and I'm not going to say where until I actually do it. I'm looking at flipping some properties out here in Mexico, and it's very cheap. It's a very touristic city. You can literally get a house for 50K in the middle of the city and probably, um, do a great job with that, right? So I think people are going to be going international very soon, and that might be the thing that saves Airbnb. What I think about KO, um, I'll be honest with you. When I was doing these, it was one of the ones that was on my list, and I completely forgot about it. So I'll leave that one, and we'll see if we can go back to it. Because and then KO is just not one that I really look at or trade. It's KO is just a performing stock at this point, right? They're not inventing anything new. The only thing I can foresee KO doing is probably acquiring a brand new hot, thing. And that's where like talks of Prime being acquired by one of these major corporations, just to take that market share back, right? So you have Coca-Colas, you have Pepsi, you have all of these, but again, it's just been a very, very consistent stock. It's a very easy stock to trade just because of its levels. As far as like ER wise, there's not really a lot to report on Coca-Cola because Coca-Cola doesn't really change anything, right? Like they're not doing anything crazy. That's why people have Coca-Cola in their portfolios for these long-term investments and the dividends that Coca-Cola pays out. It's not because Coca-Cola has these wide, crazy swings, right? So you just got to remember that. Going back to Shopify, again, I think it's not going to be doing so well just because of the way e-commerce has been going. But of course, the biggest buzzword of AI. So they have AI through Shopify Magic, which has kind of been helping people. I just don't think that's going to be enough for Shopify to really do anything. Datadog. This is the one that I am very, very bullish on. And I think is gonna just really I think surprise people overall. And again, like there's not a lot to talk about when it comes to Datadog. It's just another one of these SaaS companies. I said really, really interested into what they do tomorrow. I probably will bet I thought they were going to do a reduction in workforce, but as I started looking more into Datadog, they've actually been hiring like crazy. If so, if anyone's looking for a job, I'm sure Datadog is hiring right now. So this is just one of those ones that I'm really excited to see what they do because it's going to continue to paint a picture for the rest of the SaaS companies that are to come. Um, ALGM, Sam is getting a lot of attention, so underrated. How do you play the news? Play what news, Roberto? All right. Well, while he replies, we'll get on to DoorDash. It's a big week. Boy, I don't understand what you're saying, dude. My apologies. Um, DoorDash. So DoorDash is another big one that's going to be reporting overall. DoorDash has just been over, pretty much taking over the marketplace overall with GOV in the third quarter of 2023, it's been just exploding overall for DoorDash. It's been increasing 20% year over year with $16.8 billion in revenue. And the big one, right? This is the big one that everyone likes to see, which increasing in monthly active users with strong domestic and international markets, including, which is what's going to keep DoorDash going forward. This is kind of the big window, like with expectations of EPS of 0.55. Last quarter they reported 0.64 and they had a $2.16 billion reported in revenue. So again, I feel like DoorDash and a lot of these companies are just getting hit um with the way the economy is going. I feel like a lot of people are not going to eat out as much. A lot of people are not using DoorDash in order to order food just because things are getting more and more expensive. Oh, CPI. Okay. How do I play CPI? I don't play CPI. I don't think any of the analysts play CPI. I'll tell you that right now. None of the analysts play CPI. We all react to what CPI, we read into what CPI says, and then we adjust our plays accordingly, right? There's no one, there's just it's very, very difficult for you to be like, I think CPI is gonna be bullish or I think CPI is gonna be bearish because you don't know, right? If we knew we wouldn't be here, dude. We would be chilling on some island right now. Hello, I wanted to ask about the last two classes, what indicator you have on the trading view chart if you can get Mancart, DM me about that. I'll be able to talk to you about that one. Um, DraftKings. This is one that I used to trade a lot, DraftKings, during the COVID era because it was really, really cheap and it was just really easy to kind of play. But they've actually been profitable, like, an increase in year over year in earnings. Um, and this was probably the crazier one, right? Last quarter, they expected a minus EPS of 0.35, and they're expecting a 0.18 EPS this quarter. So this is a huge, huge increase in what DraftKings is expecting to actually report. But this is the issue, right? Results, people know what results DraftKings are going to have. So if DraftKings doesn't exceed the results that people or the streets or the market, whatever you want to call it, is expecting, it will cause DraftKings to pull back in the short term. This is the issue with earnings, right? That even if DraftKings hits expectations, that's not good enough sometimes for the market. The market wants more. The market wants you to exceed expectations, right? So you need to be careful with DraftKings, but this is going to be one fun. I believe they report what does DraftKings report? They report in a couple days. The 15th, right? So that gives us 2 days. Like this might be one of those fun ones where you're able to do an ER run up um into the ER, right? And get take advantage of that IV pump that's going to be coming from, especially this. This got released today, right? Signed a multi-year sports betting partnership with Barstool Sports. So it's like a lot of positive news that's been getting pushed into DraftKings. Obviously, you saw that huge push today. I believe they increased from almost like a $2-3 push in today alone, right? So, but again, a lot of this stuff could be invalidated with CPI with a lot of the data, so you have to be careful. But it's one that I'm expecting because look at this huge expectations revenue 1.24 billion from a jump from 7.89 million. You're talking over 200 million in pure profits for us to get to the 1.24 billion mark. So I'm excited to see what DraftKings does overall. Roku. Um, Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of Roku. I think Roku is overvalued. And I can't wait for Roku to die. I know a lot of people like trading Roku. I don't know what people see in it. I don't know why people are fans of it. I've never been a fan of it. I don't think it really has a lot of value, and I think people are starting to see it because they do have a minus 0.56 EPS, and last quarter they're a minus 0.30, 333. I think this might be one of those Uber things where revenue wise, as long as they maintain revenue, investors are going to keep investing into Roku until they're profitable. But it is one of the more riskier things that I see overall. So it's just one of those things that we need to be careful of. And then Coinbase, I wanted to ask Grizzlies about this one, but I didn't really get a lot of chance to really talk to him. But Coinbase obviously heavily influenced on BTC and BTC hitting 50K. I believe it was today where it just hit 50K today. So if you look at the last quarter, they reported was a minus 0.01, and with this expectations, they're reporting a 0.27. But then the revenue is the one that kind of caught me off guard. If they're expecting a 674 million, and last quarter they generated 820 million, there might be a surprise there. And I wonder if because I didn't pay attention to Coinbase's last earnings, if they sandbagged their expectations or based on where the market was for BTC at the time, if they didn't expect Coinbase to make a lot of money. But the same thing is going example, Grizzlies was talking about Robinhood and Coinbase making a lot of money on BTC and the BTC trades, right? So I think both of these could be potential surprises with that on it. But yeah, those are the ones that I'm kind of excited about. Obviously, we do have a ton of other ones being reported, and my apologies for completely missing like KO. Oxy is another one, right? That's the oil company. I remember trading Oxy a long, long time ago, and it was a lot cheaper. Oh, it's back to COVID levels. Oh my God. Huh. No. Is it back to COVID levels? No, it's not. But yeah, I remember Oxy being $13. It was like one of the first stocks that I used to trade. Um, but now it's been consistently just been trading sideways, right? So Oxy just being heavily focused on how the oil market is doing. Again, one of those big things is just that with the conflict in Israel, it's been greatly affecting what's been happening. But that's really it, guys. There wasn't like a ton of big names this week, unlike last week where we just had names after names after names. We have Toast, we have Dropbox, we have Trade Desk, we have a lot of these other little sasses that are going to be reporting as well. Penn reporting? Are you sure, Mancur, that Penn is reporting? I can check for you. I used to trade Penn a lot as well with Zabes. Oh, they are reporting. Huh. It wasn't on our sheet. Thank you for catching that. Huh. I haven't looked at the gambling sector or just the entertainment sector as a whole. So I don't want to. Oh, it's right there. My apologies. Joe said a few things about Penn. What I can say is maybe like depending on what Penn does, it'll give you a better idea of how DraftKings is going to do. And then can I check out UPST? Sure. I'll be more than happy to check out UPST. What were you looking at for UPST? They're reporting as well. They're reporting on Tuesday. So they report tomorrow. Yeah. I don't again, one of the things like I don't like talking about stocks or companies on this level of things if I'm not really comfortable with them or if I don't really know them, right? So that's just kind of like my big thing. If I don't really understand the market or the company itself, I don't really want to talk about it and give you guys like generic um advice because it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't give us any benefit, right? So um, can you check out last one, ISCC? Sure, Norberto, I'll check out one last one. I don't know where the hell you're finding these. I mean, it's an OTC, dude. Am I really gonna waste my time with the OTC? Yeah, I'm not. Guys, don't no. We're not gonna waste our time with an OTC. Yeah, Mancur, I am also if I would look at Dropbox, they're just going to shit. I feel like a lot of people have been dropping Dropbox, and I think they're ready to kind of drop down, man. A lot of people are just moving to Google Drive just because there's been again like a lot of money. People don't have as much money anymore, so they're finding ways to save money. And an easy way to save money from Dropbox is just to use Google Drive. So yeah, exactly. And the company I work for, I don't know if I'm allowed to legally say what they use, so I'll stay quiet. Um, I'm not gonna say what we use, but yeah, Dropbox is getting dropped by a lot of companies from what I hear on the streets, so we can say that. Anyways, guys, Steven, you just joined. You can't hear anyone speaking. I've been talking for the past 30 minutes. I don't like using the whole hour for earnings because then that would just be very boring and just very like number heavy, fact heavy. So I usually try to cut these at 30 or 45 minutes. and then give you guys your guys' time back. And then we can trade tomorrow. So again, be careful. There is a lot of news. Maybe we can end with that. Let's go. I believe there should be a lot of news. We have PPI on Friday. Okay. We have CPI tomorrow, and that is at 8:30 EST. So we got to be careful with these right here. This is going to dictate a lot of how the market is going to move. So we have CPI, we have jobless claims, which is on Thursday. It's just a heavy, heavy news influenced week. So just be careful, guys, with your guys' positions, especially if you're swinging things, because any of these news could really affect, like Oxy can get affected by crude oil inventories, right? That could affect XCOM. Like there's a lot of things that are going to be affected by the news. So just remember that Casey's always reporting stuff on here, and you guys can always go in here and like where she mentioned how Biden was speaking earlier today, right? So, anyways, guys, that is it for me. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening, and we'll chat tomorrow. Feel free to ping me if you guys have any questions regarding any specific ERs. If not, yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Bye.